Janet with Try It Like It Create It, and today what we're going to be doing is practicing some dots for dot mandala painting, and I am using craft acrylic paint from Arteza. I want to tell you that straight out of the tube, or the bottle actually, it's a little bit thick, okay, and when I use it straight from the tube or the bottle, it doesn't make great dots. So what I've done here is, here's my palette, and I have added water to get these to be a little bit more runny. Okay, so here is a ball tool from the dollar store. You can see it's got a small ball end there and even smaller at this end. So to practice our dots, we're just going to dip into our watered down paint. That is it. When I tilt the palette, it moves. Actually, not a lot, but it does move a little bit. Okay, so I'm dipping it in, and then straight up and down, I'm making a dot on the page. All right, so you're gonna practice making dots, and you want to dip back into your paint each time. So you're just going to make a dot. Then the next thing you can do to practice is what's called walking the dog. So you're going to dot, and then you're going to dot continuously until your tool runs out of paint, and that's called walking the dog. So now you have dots coming down in a smaller size. So we dip it once, and then we just keep dotting until we run out of paint. So dip into the paint, dot, and then continue down the page. If you're not good at doing straight lines, you could practice on a line sheet, or you could actually do some pencil marks on your page to give you a line to practice. The other thing you might want to try is that what I'm doing here is I'm working and pulling down straight towards myself. What you could do also is see what works best for you. If you dot and then go to the side, are you better at doing that? I like going to the side, I think a little bit better, and the reason being is that I'm left-handed. I can actually do it, pull towards myself, and I can see what I'm doing. Now, I would not dot and go this direction, because then I'm going to run my hand into it. So what I would want to do then is turn my paper around and work the other direction. Well, it would be working, towards my left side again. But the gradation of dots would be going in the other direction. If you were to do something like that, and I'm going to go against what I just said there, is that if you go to make your dots going the other direction, and you want them to be the same size, you're going to dot back into your first dot. All right, and then you're going to walk in the other direction. All right, so that gives you a taper in both directions. And like I said, you don't want to reach across. You want to do what's more comfortable. So if you need to move your paper or move your project, then that's what you need to do. All right, so those are our dots. Now let's work on some dashes or some pulls. And once again, you're going to want to practice and decide which way you like to work better. Do you like to push down, and then you're going to lift up a little bit and pull towards yourself, and that's going to give you a dash. Now I have to say that doing a straight one, is probably the one that I need to practice the most on. I can pull down straight towards myself, all right, or I can do it to the side. That was really long, so you can see I need to practice to uniform, and that's short. So I need more practice with these. Ooh, that one was horrible. And there I didn't fill my, you want to dot back into your paint each time. All right, and practice. I am not comfortable with how long my stroke is yet, so that's something I need to work on. What I do better is more of the comma stroke, and that is where you dot and then curve. So you're going to dot, and then you're going to lift up and go at an angle. And that was terrible. dot an angle like that. All right, and once again, pulling them down towards myself. They're not bad, but doing them to the side, I find I do them a little bit better. So you want to practice both ways, and you probably can't tell the difference between those, but you want to practice them in both directions and see which you're best at. Okay, and then once you have those techniques down, you can then, you know, start adding to those shapes, and you can go with a smaller one and you know, work around. Remember, if you're going to go the other direction, you want to go start back in that center dot and then travel the other way. All right, so you can then put those together to make your design. So that's the tool from the dollar store. Now here is the tool that I made using an empty Bic pen that ran out of ink, and then I have glued 2 beads to the end, okay, in different size. So I've got a medium one here and a larger one. So if I dip this into paint, then I can make, well, probably yellow isn't the best choice. You probably can't see yellow very well. Let me go into the light blue here. Just straight up and down. Now, if you want to dot another color on top of that, you're going to let that completely dry before you come back into it, okay? So I can see here that my blues haven't even dried yet. The pinks that I've dotted and dragged, they're still a little wet, but they'll probably dry a little bit faster because I'm not clumping the paint all in one place. So now here is my smaller bead, and I am just going to dip that into my paint and come over and make a dot. All right, and so that gives me a bigger dot. The other thing that I have found is that the balls or ball tools, whether you make it or you buy it, do the walking the dog better than a flat tool. Now you can buy flat tools. What I have here is a dowel that I've used for other things, but I'm going to just show you. It makes a bigger dot. Okay, but if I go to do the walk the dog, it starts to fall apart on me and doesn't work quite as well as the round ball tool does. So that's something to consider if you're going to use different elements. Now you can use all different kinds of things. The end of a paintbrush, you can use a pen that's run out of ink. You could even do a pin. Let me just grab one here. I have a very small pin that actually probably has some glue on the end of it because I used it with glue the last time to apply. But okay, I'm going to dip that into my blue, and I can make little teeny tiny dots. Well, I say I can, but I didn't get enough paint. All right, let's see here. There we go. I can do little teeny tiny, and I can also walk the dog with my needle. And I grab enough paint. I can't walk the dog very far because those dots are extra small, and it may be the consistency of the glue grabbing onto the end. Let me do the other end. I'm going to do the end that has that you thread through. Let me see what this does, if it does any better. I've seen push pins being used. So yeah, you can see that the metal, I could go quite far using the end of that embroidery needle. So look around your house. I mean, this doesn't take any special materials. You probably have some craft paint at home. It doesn't really matter what kind, but you do want it to be liquidy. So if it doesn't come out of the bottle rather runny, you're going to want to add a little bit of water. And let's see if I can show you here with, see that if you watch the dark blue right here, okay, I'm going to move it so it's closer to an ink consistency. I kind of don't want everything to run off the page. My pink is running. Okay, let's do this. Let's try this direction. If you look at the pink, you can see it run there. All right. So it takes very little paint. You're going to want to put your paint into a palette like this and use water. Now this empty one right here is what I used the water. I used water in here and used it to transfer it to my paints. And so I have set up my color chart here that is going to work for my project. And I am in no way ready to start working on a design itself, but I am ready to start practicing. So if I were to do a dot, and then I have a paper or a wet baby wipe off to the side that I'm wiping off my color. So I've dipped in blue, and then I'm going to go into pink, and I'm going to go to either side of it. All right, so I'm going to go into the blue and dot, and then into the pink with the smaller one, and big dot, and then two smaller ones. All right, so I'm starting to build a pattern here, and you could see that if I were to go around a circle with these, that's how I would, you know, build my mandala up. So it's not a craft that you're going to go into and actually start right off. You're going to practice, all right? But it is very peaceful to practice, and I find it relaxing, enjoyable. You could put some music on and just work away. And don't adjust your arm, adjust your paper. So you're gonna, I'm just working on a piece of paper here and not really moving things around, but you definitely can move your paper so that your design works with you, not against you. Okay, so you can see just by putting these little shapes together, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So what I'm doing here is by no means perfect, but it is creating an interesting pattern. And then I can go in those. It might be too big, but I'll just do it anyway. You don't want your dots to touch. All right, so probably walking the dog down this would have been a better choice here, because like what's happening right here where the paint is touching, it's probably going to bleed into each other, and it could even mix. But if we had a large design going on, you may not even notice that. You may want to go back in and fix it afterwards. And what you would do then is pick up that paint. If your background was white or black, you would definitely want to coat your background first, and then you could, you know, go back in and touch this up. For me, for this, it would be white because the paper's white. Then I would go back in and replace that dot. It's a lot of work. So what you want to do is practice and practice and practice so that you don't have to fix mistakes. But it is a really peaceful craft, I'll say, and one that you might want to give a try and practice. Just get some paper out. Like I said, this is just scrap paper, but you know, you could use lined paper and practice doing your dots along the lines. Start, you know, with your individual dots, and just get comfortable making dots so that you're comfortable going up and down. Because why I'm saying that is because you don't want to go at an angle with your tool, okay? You don't want, although it's making an okay dot, it is a little ovally and odd shaped. I don't know if you're picking that up on camera, but these are definitely not as round and circular as if I were going straight up and down. Okay, going straight up and down worked much better. And what I'm also doing here is practicing my spacing. So I am practicing the gap between my dots so that it's uniform over and over again. So, you know, you don't want them to change from time to time. You want, you know, your movement to be consistent on how you want to space those dots out from each other. Hope that makes sense to you. But then, you know, once your colors have dried, here are some practice ones. Let's see if I can get these blue ones. They're not perfectly circular, but if I wanted to go into them and add a dot in the center, I could do that. You can even walk the dog down the center, and I know it's small, so let me bring this up to the camera. And my lights aren't very bright tonight, but there, you can see what dots inside dots would look like. So it's just another way to adjust the look of what you're doing. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you give it a try. Love to see what you do and how successful you are at your practicing.